Hello brothers and sisters, welcome to my second vlog. So last time I just gave you a quick intro of who I am and what sort of thing I do, but I didn't get much into detail about the sort of physical things I craft. So I wanted to give you a little preview of that and what sort of things I've been making. You might notice behind me, as opposed to the first video, there's a big wooden plaque missing because that is right here. This I actually crafted myself. It's got the little knotwork art of Yggdrasil with the Nidhogg sort of off the corner at the bottom, and of course Odin, Thor and Skadi in the Elder Foddark runes, and Viki, which means to bless or protect. And yeah, so I have this. So making these sort of things, these are my primary three deities I work with: Odin, Skadi and Thor. And speaking of Thor, I also have this, which I showed you briefly in the last video, but I want to give you a little more detail there. I also wrapped the handle in leather cord, and it's getting a little dirty because I've been using this for practice a lot. And there is also the runic inscription burned into the blade. Now, I worked on this for a long time and it's quite refined. As you can see, the balance point is right about there. It handles quite like a real sword would, as a matter of fact. So it's quite nice by wooden sword standards. As you can see, it's relatively sharp on the edge. He's even got the fuller there. And if you didn't notice, the handle, the hilt rather, is rather like the hammer. And of course I did that on purpose. The inscription reads, Thor, son of earth, the wandering storm, he who travels alone. It's the same inscription I have on the ring I bought, but is in the younger Foddark runes, and it has different kennings or names for Thor. Originally I was going to actually do this in like a bronze, like spray painted, and do the handle silver, just so it would look like a real sword. But after I finished doing the wood burning on this side, I did not want to cover it up because it came out so nice. Like, have another look at that. The armor gone through there inside of the hammer borders. And I was going to put something here on the pommel as well, but I ended up not doing that. But believe it or not, it's not the very first sword I've ever made, but I've only ever made one before, and it was horrible. No, I've made two before. I made one master sword from The Legend of Zelda, and I made the falchion, not the actual type of sword, but from Fire Emblem, the old one from the first game. But yeah, I only did a couple of cosplay swords back then, and they were terrible. This is the first just plain wooden sword for the sake of making a sword I've made, and I have to say I've refined my technique quite a bit since then. The other thing I often make is wands. This one in particular is mine, and it's caused quite a lot of well, it's seen some use, shall we say. But this one is actually Casuarina. It's a very long word, but also known as she oak or Australian pine, and it's a type of ironwood, as a matter of fact. It's extremely dense and hard, and I made this particular wand while I was in Hawaii, and unfortunately I wouldn't really have access to this wood again, but it actually makes a very good wood for ancestral sort of magic, and it's very strong for spirit work, earthen work. It's a good all-around wood for a wand, to be honest, but it's also very nice because there's such different colors through the bark that it leads to a flame-like appearance depending on how you carve it. And again, it is very, very solid wood. So I make those as well, and of course I'm going to start using more traditional European woods now that I'm back on the mainland. So I'm going to start using birch, alder, things like that I can get a hold of. This, however, this amulet to Skadi, you can see there, it's a runework snowflake, and the runes of her name in the Elder Futhark, and of course the Isa rune, which is pretty much the rune of winter. I actually plan on adding to this necklace and probably getting a better cord for it. But for now, that's the part that matters. This is actually a piece of the Yule tree. When I bought the tree, I trimmed the bottom off and that became this here. And I actually have the entire tree still. I plan on using it for future products, but it's Black Hills spruce is what it is. Which is kind of a mean little tree. If you ever get the Christmas or Yule tree, don't get Black Hills spruce. It's extremely spiny and it doesn't behave very well. It's a pretty tree, but it's not very nice, so I wouldn't recommend it. And of course this shield, which I have not made a shield before. Actually, I call this more of a buckler, to be honest, but of course I'm going to be covering this in rawhide and wearing down the edges so they're not quite as round, because this is a little more thick than necessary, but yeah, pretty solid work. Simple, of course. All I really did was attach a handle and a strap to a piece of wood, but eventually I plan to refine my technique. I also plan to get into bow making, which is much harder than just, say, making like a wand or a sword. There's really quite an art and a science to it to get it to do exactly what you want it to do, because this, all I have to do is shape it right and swing it around. Making a bow is a lot harder. And in addition, it is a functional weapon. It is not merely it is essentially a glorified toy. Perhaps if you were to enchant or bless it properly, it could be used as a spiritual weapon of sorts, but for all intents and purposes, this is a practice weapon. I just wanted a practice weapon that was prettier than the average wooden wasters usually get. But these I will probably have for sale after I start making them, because this is going to be the one I keep. I have wood for a couple more already, but the only problem is it's extremely cold outside right now, which is not, it does not bother me, but I lose dexterity in my fingers, which it really is not, and the truck is always parked in the garage and I have to work out there, so yeah, there's things that get in the way, so I have to work on smaller projects right now. So yeah, wooden swords, plaques, amulets, shields, wands. I have to say wands are my specialty right now. I made and sold several of them already, but that was, again, back in Hawaii. I haven't really gotten back into it since, but I think tomorrow I'm going to go out into the woods and perhaps gather some birch and see if I can't find some shed antlers that I can use for projects as well. Like, for instance, back here I have an antler, but it's a fake one from the Christmas store. So yeah, I want to get some real ones and start doing some real pagan crafts here. I also plan on making runes in the future, which I plan to use part of the Yule tree for that. But that's going to have to remain in the future a little ways. But yeah, just keep an eye out for some of the stuff when I get to where I can start making products and selling them. I will make sure to link that to you in the announcement video. So after the end of winter, you should be looking for that. But for now, yeah, I guess just go ahead and like, subscribe, and yeah, keep following until things get a little more interesting. And they will, so don't worry. Alright, anyways, see you next time. Thanks.